President Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden squaring off in dueling town halls. Good evening, I'm Kimberly Hunt. Thank you for joining us on this special edition of ABC 10 News. Well, the rivals answered questions on a number of issues. ABC 10 News reporter Anthony Pura is joining us with the highlights of each one. Anthony.
Kimberly, this was supposed to be the second debate between these two candidates. Instead, they different events at two different battleground states, answering questions about issues that impact so many Americans. President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden taking questions from voters Thursday night, the candidates holding two separate town halls. Biden was in Philadelphia in an event hosted by ABC News. Several questions were asked about the pandemic. Biden was asked whether he would mandate Americans to take a vaccine for the coronavirus.
It depends on the state of the nature of the vaccine, when it comes out, and how it's being distributed. That would depend on. But I would think that we should be talking about, depending on the continuation of the spread of the virus, we should be thinking about making it mandatory.
How could you enforce that?
Well, you couldn't. That's the problem. Just like you can't enforce measles. You can't come to school unless you have a measles shot.
He also took a question about the economy, asked to clarify his stance on the president's current tax plan.
When I said the Trump tax cuts, about $1.3 trillion of the $2 trillion in his tax cuts went to the top 1/10 of 1%. That's what I'm talking about eliminating.
At the same time, President Trump was in Miami taking part in a town hall broadcasted on another network. The moderator asked the president about his response to white supremacy in the last debate.
So let's clear up a few things from the last one. You were asked point blank to denounce white supremacy. In the moment, you didn't. You asked some follow-up questions. Who specifically? A couple of days later, on a different show, you denounced white supremacy.
No, you
My question to you is,
you've done this to me and everybody.
Why does it seem like
I denounce white supremacy? Okay,
you did 2 days later?
I denounced white supremacy for years.
The president was also asked about health care and if he will protect people with pre-existing conditions.
We will protect people with pre-existing conditions. And Savannah, what I want to do, get rid of the terrible Obamacare. I've already done it to a large extent because, as you know, the individual mandate is gone. That was the worst part.
And joining us now to talk about tonight's town halls is Dr. Greene with the Center on Policy Initiatives. Hello, Dr. Greene. Thank you for joining us. So let's start with the president. He started and ended tonight with the economy, not just pre-pandemic, but saying that we'll see 11.4 million jobs in the fourth quarter of 2020. How much could the economy play a role in this election?
We should never count out the importance of the economy in an election. But I think the trouble for President Trump is that he does have more support and belief in his ability to handle the economy, and yet that hasn't translated in closing this gap that he's experiencing right now.
Speaking of translation, so now let's go to Biden. He's leading among black voters, but as we saw with the Hillary Clinton situation in 2016, that doesn't always translate, especially in some battleground states. So did Biden tonight create enthusiasm in these key votes?
I think the trouble for Vice President Biden is that I don't know that enthusiasm is the word I would associate with his performance tonight. But what I do think he did well was he spoke to black voters about other issues other than criminal justice, which both he and the president have tended to do up to now. He talked about entrepreneurship, wealth building, access to education. I think he may have made some inroads with voters who really felt like he was still off on issues around race. But I'm not sure that it, created that big enthusiasm that we want to see, that big energy.
And the very first subject tonight launched at the president was coronavirus. And polls show that many people are not happy with his response. Could this be a one-issue election?
I think this is really the issue that is the bane for the president, because he, in this answer, highlighted the things that are the biggest concerns for folks. He acknowledged that he didn't tell the truth when truthfulness is a challenge for him. And Joe Biden basically took the exact same answer, even though they were in different places, and just gave the inverse of that. I think this is a real challenge for the president. And I do think, given how pressing it is for Americans, he has to come up with a better answer if he's hoping to win folks over.
There has been some questions around truth to Joe Biden as well. And tonight, Biden was questioned on some of those issues, fracking and the Green New Deal. He seems to be moving toward fracking now and away from the Green New Deal. How important is this shift?
I actually think surprisingly this shift might actually help Joe Biden because one, I think it tracks with what people know to be his true position. I think it was less believable when he took a more progressive view on these issues. I think it also plays to the idea that it also highlights that he has space to move because there's no way that people who are strong on the environment, that this is their most critical issue, have any doubt about who they think will be closer to them on this issue. So he has a lot of room to maneuver there.
Dr. Greene, we appreciate your expertise. We'll join with you again next week after the presidential debate. We'll have a lot to talk about. Thank you.